A few days back, I was out for dinner with two friends. Anne is currently pregnant, approximately 17 weeks. Kim has been married for 3 years and is currently desperately trying to get pregnant. Because Anne is pregnant, Kim cannot stand the idea of not being pregnant yet, and that is all she can think or talk about. Even though it doesn't interest me much, as someone who doesn't plan on ever having children, I happen to have developed a good tolerance for pregnancy and child-related topics because all my friends are either pregnant or parents. During dinner, they spoke only about pregnancies and childbirth when I was hoping to catch up on other topics. I couldn't get them to talk about anything else, despite politely and subtly trying to change the topic several times. But as I understand that these topics interest them more right now, I very politely contributed to the conversation where I could. Otherwise, I let them talk as they pleased. A baby started crying near us and kept crying for a while, even though the mother tried to calm it down. It didn't seem hurt in any way, just a normal cry for a baby. I noticed it start crying because it was loud, but then I tuned it out and went back to savoring my dessert. The crying was like background noise to me. But then my friends noticed how I was enjoying my dessert and not contributing to their conversation about how sad they felt for the baby and how it was making their hearts ache. They were having some sort of physical reaction to the baby crying. I told them that I didn't hear the baby cry anymore. They asked me if I had a hearing issue, so I explained how it was like background noise to me after the first 10 seconds. Both of them looked at me in horror and pity. Kim told me that it is good I don't plan on having children because I'm heartless and that my baby would be unlucky to be my baby. Anne said that she pities me, that I'll never know the feeling that they both had. I laughed at their comments because I thought that Kim wasn't very serious about her comment, and Anne is going through a few hormonal changes with her pregnancy and deserves some leniency regarding what she says to me. But they both got mad at me. According to them, it wasn't something to laugh about. Neither of these comments bothered me at first, but after I posted about it yesterday, I received a lot of comments telling me that they are not good friends. I argued in their favor because of their difficult situations. They are emotionally having a tough time, but after what happened today, I'm not so sure anymore. Kim texted me today saying that I need to start showing a little more concern towards crying children if I am to spend time with her future children. When I asked her if my heart should ache every time a strange child cries just because I have a uterus, she called me a jerk. So am I the idiot for ignoring that crying child? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. For starters, just what are you supposed to do about the crying baby? Rip him from his mother's arms and try to soothe the baby yourself? Perhaps the only thing different you could have said is that the baby doesn't seem to be hurt, and there's nothing I can do to help, and leave it at that. But the real issue is that your girlfriends obviously have zero experience with actually dealing with a crying baby and have gone a bit over the top in their reactions to a bae. I get that babies' cries do indeed trigger women, and I mean physically. For example, the sound of a crying baby can make a lactating woman suddenly start leaking milk from her breasts even if the baby is not theirs. But in this case, your girlfriends are tough for going overboard in their reactions and concerns. Comment 2. Not the idiot, good grief, these two. The baby's mom was there, so what were they upset about? It's not like there was an abandoned baby screaming alone on the floor. It was a fussy baby who had a parent with it and didn't seem in distress. I'm a mother, and hearing a baby cry doesn't put me into a fit or make my heart ache. Babies cry and they are judging you for no reason. Too bad, because you sound like a very patient and understanding friend to sit and listen to them talk about themselves and babies and not even show interest in your life. Might be time to drift apart a bit from these two. Now for the update, thanks for sticking around to hear more about the mess I've been dealing with. So after that dinner with Anne and Kim, things took a rough turn. I thought the drama was over, but boy was I wrong. A couple of days later, I found out that Kim's husband, who's supposed to be this loyal, loving guy, was caught cheating. And not with just anyone, with Anne's sister. The news spread like wildfire, and suddenly, our little group was in the middle of a soap opera. Kim was devastated, obviously. She threw him out, and there was this huge confrontation at their house. I heard about it because Anne called me, crying, saying her sister had betrayed her too. She couldn't believe her own flesh and blood would do such a thing. The family was in shambles, and Anne was stuck in the middle, trying to support her pregnant self while dealing with her sister's scandal. But here's where it gets even crazier. Anne's husband, who's always been the quiet type, suddenly announced he was leaving her. He said he couldn't handle the stress of the pregnancy and the family drama. Anne was left alone, pregnant, and her world was falling apart. She was a mess, and I felt bad for her, but part of me couldn't help but resent her for how she treated me at dinner. In the midst of all this, Kim was trying to pick up the pieces of her broken marriage. She was talking about forgiveness and therapy, but I could see the hurt in her eyes. She wanted that perfect family life so bad, and it was slipping through her fingers. Now I was trying to be there for both of them, but it was tough. I was still stinging from their comments about me being heartless. But I put that aside because, well, that's what friends do, right? I helped Anne with some baby stuff, and I listened to Kim rant about her cheating husband. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, Kim found out she was pregnant. It was a shock to everyone, especially her. She had been trying for so long, and now, with her marriage in shambles, she was facing motherhood. She was over the moon and terrified all at once. But here's the kicker, she wasn't sure if the baby was her husband's. The timing was off, and there was a chance it could be someone else's. She confided in me, and I promised to keep her secret. I mean, what else could I do? As for Anne, she was struggling to keep it together. Her husband was gone, her sister was the other woman, and her best friend was pregnant by possibly another man. It was a lot for anyone to handle, and through all this I was there, the stable one, the friend they could count on. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being used. They needed me now because their lives were a mess, but what about when they called me heartless? It's funny how quickly people forget the hurtful things they say when they need something from you. Anyway, thanks for reading. It's been a hectic week, and I needed to get this off my chest. My adopted sister uses her hard life to manipulate my family and turn them against me. So I expose her lies and kick her out with nothing but the truth. I, 25-year-old male, was placed in the foster system by my biological parents when I was 2 years old. I was adopted sometime later by my biological parents. I recognize that I'm extremely fortunate and lucky to have been adopted before I had any real memory of the system, and that my parents gave me a better life than I would have ever had if I had stayed with my biological parents. I grew up privileged, went to private schools, had holidays abroad, and had my tuition paid fully when I started university. I was loved and never lacked anything. I currently have a well-paying job as a chemical engineer, a beautiful wife, a house paid off fully by my in-laws, and 2 children. I'm very grateful for everything I have and recognize that I would be leading a very different life had I not been adopted. Last year, Opal, 27-year-old female, contacted me, claiming I was her brother and wanted to meet up. After careful consideration, I agreed. After doing a DNA test together and digging a bit into family history, Opal and I discovered that we were placed into foster care around the same time. Usually, foster care will try to keep siblings together, but for some reason we were not registered as siblings and were placed into different foster homes, probably due to having a different dad, surname, and being given up by different people. Opal got very upset by this discovery, even more so after she found out that while she was never adopted, I had lived a good life with loving parents. After the discovery, Opal started calling and asking to hang out with my parents and me, or asking me to do certain favors for her. It got uncomfortable really quickly since, to be frank, I don't know her that well. In all aspects except genetically, she is a total stranger to me. I don't feel comfortable lending her money or introducing her to my entire family. She even made a couple of comments that made me uneasy when she asked me if I thought my parents would have adopted her also had they known she existed when I was adopted, and if I think they would accept her into the family now. Last night she called me again, this time to complain about how she saw that the women in my family had a get-together over the weekend, and how she felt excluded since she didn't get an invite. I told her that I understand she's upset, but that it was a family get-together for all the women and she's not family to them, so she's not entitled to an invitation. Opal began screaming at me, stating how it was unfair and how, since I'm considered family, she should be considered too, by extension, and that I owe it to her to make sure my family invites her next time, since it's the least I could do for her as someone who got adopted. I told her I'm sorry she feels excluded and that she wasn't adopted, but neither my family nor I owe her anything before hanging up the phone. Since then, I've been receiving non-stop texts calling me a jerk and an evil jerk. I'm starting to second-guess myself and need an outside perspective on the situation. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. I suggest ignoring her and, after a while, blocking her when her messages die down after being ignored. Don't give her any reason to believe she's wanted. It sucks that she wasn't adopted, but that has nothing to do with you or your family. Also, give a heads up to your family if you believe she might do something crazy. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Block contact with her immediately. It's sad that she's had a tough life, but that is not your problem, and it is not your responsibility to fix it for her. You owe her nothing, but she feels otherwise. People like that are dangerous to have around, and you cannot reason with them. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around for this update. So things have gone from bad to worse with Opal. A month ago, she showed up at my job unannounced. It was embarrassing. She caused a scene, demanding to talk to me, saying it was about family matters. My boss wasn't happy, and I had to calm the situation down. I took her aside and she dropped a shocker. She was pregnant and claimed she was in trouble, needed money, and had nowhere else to turn. I felt cornered, so I helped her out, thinking it would be a one-time thing. But it wasn't. Opal started showing up more often, asking for more help, more money. She even tried to get close to my wife, telling her sob stories to win her sympathy. My wife, bless her, is too kind and started to think maybe we should do more for Opal. I didn't agree, but I didn't want to argue about it either. Then 2 weeks ago, my parents called. They'd heard from Opal. She told them everything about the baby, the money, the help she needed, and my parents, they're the giving type. They offered to take her in. I couldn't believe it. I felt betrayed. They didn't even ask me, just went ahead and did it. Now she's living in their guest house, and it's like she's become the daughter they never had. I was mad, but what could I do? They're adults, it's their choice. But it didn't stop there. Opal started spreading rumors about me to my family, saying I was ashamed of her, that I didn't want her around because she reminded me of where I came from. That's not true. I just wanted to keep my life separate, that's all. The worst part came last week. My little boy, he's only 5, came home from a visit to my parents' house asking about Auntie Opal. She'd been telling him stories, playing with him, acting like she was part of the family. It was like she was taking over my life, piece by piece. And then the final straw. My wife sat me down and told me she was thinking about inviting Opal to live with us for a while after the baby was born to help her out. She said it would be good for the kids to know their aunt. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It felt like everyone was against me, like I was the bad guy for wanting to keep my distance. I argued, I pleaded, but in the end I gave in. I couldn't fight everyone. So now we're preparing the spare room for Opal. I tell myself it's temporary, just until she gets on her feet. But deep down, I know this is a bad idea. I feel like I'm losing control of my own life, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. Thanks for reading. My ex-husband accidentally sends me money for his girlfriend's ring, but I deduct his $12,000 debt and watch his proposal plans crumble. A few days ago, my ex-husband mistakenly transferred 2 payments of $8,700 and $9,275. He did this at around 7:40 a.m. in the morning, and I didn't notice because I had just worked a double night shift and was getting ready for bed. So my phone was charging on the nightstand. At the same time, my 4 children were at my parents' house, and I planned to sleep away half the day. I guess he realized his mistake around 8:30 a.m., and by then I was dead asleep. I woke up at around 4 p.m. to at least 100 missed calls and maybe 150 texts, asking and begging me to send him back the money. My initial thoughts were to send it back, but then I remembered he owed me $12,000 and hasn't paid me back since I lent it to him 4 years ago. He's had a million excuses why he can't pay me back, and yet I always see him living it up. I kept the amount he owed me and returned only $5,975 and told him I deducted his debt. Since then, I've had him call me every book in the name because this was apparently money he was saving to buy his girlfriend an engagement ring, the engagement venue, etc. So according to him, he had to tell her. This then led to it ruining the surprise engagement he planned for the next weekend. His girlfriend has been bad-mouthing me, and it has caused a bit of a shitstorm with me having to shut down my social media. Even his parents, with whom I had a cordial relationship, have been impacted by it. I discussed the situation with a friend and colleague, and it was overheard by another colleague, and he has called what I did a jerk move. I guess he shared it with a couple of other people, and now I'm not too sure anymore on whether I am being a jerk or not. Is this a jerk move? Edit. The money was loaned to him after our divorce. We've been divorced for 7 years, and I loaned him the money 4 years ago after he had lost his job and fell behind on bills and his rent. This has nothing to do with his child support payments, of which he is also behind on, and that's being handled by Family Court, the child support company. There are texts of him asking for a loan, and it included a repayment plan and timeline, but he never stuck to it. So there's a legal trail if he ever decided to involve the law. But I seriously doubt he would, because it would cost way more to sue me. And I think I would have won in court since I only deducted his debt to me. Yes, he is the father of our 4 kids. I also didn't deduct the overdue child support payments because that is being handled by the courts. And I don't want to muddy the water and get myself in trouble. The child support company is aware of his arrears, and if I'm not mistaken, he will need to start paying soon, or they'll start garnishing his wages. Edit 2. Yes, I could have sued him for the debt, but it would have cost me way more to hire a lawyer. Suing someone isn't cheap. Lawyers cost real money, and a lawsuit takes real time. Edit 3. When I say then I remembered he owed me money, you have to understand I had just woken up after having worked a double shift. I'm a nurse, and I was still kind of exhausted when I woke up. I could barely remember my own name, let alone anything else, so my initial instinct was just to return the money, but I quickly got to my senses. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. He owed you money and finally repaid it. Additionally, he didn't have to tell his girlfriend anything and just planned for a little bit later, but then he wouldn't be able to drag you through the dirt. So I guess you have to decide how badly you needed your money back. And I'm going to guess $12,000 is a lot more valuable than people who take the side of someone like that. Comment 2. To be fair, he has owed you $12,000 for 4 years. His priorities should have been clearing his debt and then saving for an engagement ring, especially when he clearly had the money. Also, surely he can find an engagement ring for $6,000? Not the idiot, you only kept what you were owed. Now for the update, thanks for sticking around to hear more of this mess. So the drama with my ex and the money just went from bad to worse. Remember how I thought I was done with it after I sent back part of the money? Well, turns out he wasn't just blowing up my phone for the heck of it. He actually went and filed a police report claiming I stole from him. Can you believe that? The cops showed up at my door, and I had to explain the whole situation to them. They seemed to get it, and nothing came of it. But talk about embarrassing. And if that wasn't enough, my oldest kid heard from a friend about the whole engagement ring fiasco. Now all 4 of them are asking questions I don't have good answers to. I tried to keep it simple, told them Daddy made a mistake, and I fixed it. But kids talk and they're not dumb. They know something's up. But wait, it gets better. My ex's girlfriend, the one he was going to propose to, she shows up at my work. Yes, at the hospital, causing a scene, accusing me of ruining her life. Security had to escort her out. My boss wasn't thrilled, and I got a warning. As if I don't have enough stress saving lives, now I've got to save my job too. Then just when I thought I could catch a break, my car got keyed. Big scratch down the side, and guess who I think did it? If you're thinking my ex's not so charming girlfriend, you're right on the money. No proof, but who else has a grudge against me right now? In the middle of all this, my parents, bless their hearts, are trying to keep the peace. They're telling me to just give back the rest of the money and be done with it. They don't get it though. It's not about the money. It's about standing up for myself after years of being pushed around by him. And the cherry on top? My so-called friend at work, the one who overheard me talking about the money? He's been spreading rumors about me, says I'm vindictive and petty. Now I've got colleagues whispering behind my back, and I can feel the looks they give me. I thought he had my back, but I guess not. So here I am, trying to keep my head above water, and it feels like the whole world's against me. But I'm not backing down. I did what I had to do, and I'm sticking to it. I just wish everyone else could see that. Thanks for listening to my venting. It's been a week, huh? If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.